Every Sunday night, and I told him I won't be here next Sunday morning for church, but I'll be here for prayer meeting. And he says, because I speak at another church Sunday morning, he says, well, where are you going to speak to? Where are you going? And I told him this church, and I says, and I'm going there where this young pastor preaching and been around for a few years, and she's a wonderful lady, and she preaches like a house of fire.
Amen.
And you know, she puts a lot of these younger fellas that I've been in their churches to shame, because Pastor Grace, she really lets us have it.
Come on now.
She really gives the word.
Amen.
And I'm thankful, because that's what I'm here about, is the word.
Yes.
And as your lady gave the testimony about the drawer, that kind of goes right along with the testimony that I'd like to share with you about one that we received just recently. This young man, he was, you can all sit down, you don't have to stand. And this young man, he was 9 years old, and I don't know where he was, what area or city or where he was actually living at, but he was a Spanish fella. His name was Alejandro Olea. He was 9 years old, and his family received a gift from a neighbor. An unexpected gift. And the neighbor was a Jewish family. And they decided to give away some furniture. Well, that furniture was still useful. And this other family next door was willing to accept this furniture. Well, one of the pieces was a nightstand. Talk about a nightstand. Gideon Bible in a drawer. Well, this was an unexpected blessing with another blessing. And this young fella, when he got it there in his room, and he was just thrilled to death to have his own nightstand there. He even had a drawer in it. I mean, you know, that's for a young fella, this can be kind of special. And he just opened that drawer, and what do you think he found? Well, it was a gift that he never even expected. He didn't even know what it was. He had never really seen a Bible before, but he found a little testament like this. Just like this. And that testament, he started reading it. Because his dad was kind of a pretty tough guy. And he started reading it, but he didn't quite understand it, because he'd never been exposed to Christianity. He'd never been allowed to go to Sunday school, never been taken to Sunday school. You know, folks, we got generations of young kids in our city, in our neighborhoods, in our states, in our world, and especially the United States for sure, that have never had the privilege of even being taken to church to go to Sunday school. Their parents don't know anything about it. They've never taken their young children. Now, I think probably a good portion of us have grown up in church in going to Sunday school. I know I was, since I was old enough to walk. And I'll tell you what a blessing. What a blessing. I mean, I feel like they've lost most of their life by not giving these basic things that I've taken for granted, to be truthful. Well, he got that little testament, and he was walking around his neighborhood, and he heard some other kids singing these Christian songs. And he asked them, well, where did you learn these songs? And they said, well, we learned them in Sunday school. And he said, Sunday school? Well, he didn't even know anything about Sunday school. They said, well, that's where we go to learn about God on Sunday mornings. And so he asked his father, hey, Dad, can I go to Sunday school down to this church and learn about God? And his father said, oh, no, I don't want you to do that. Well, now in this one case, he was disobedient. He didn't obey his father, but he obeyed his heavenly Father that he didn't even know that existed. And he went to that church the next week. And one of the elders, God bless him, saw this young fellow that needed some teaching. So he took him aside and he said, I want to teach you about the Bible. He wanted to know about the Bible. And after a short time of that, he prayed to receive Christ. Now this little young fellow, 9 years old, But he knew there was something major missing in his heart and his life. And he prayed to receive Christ. So when he went home, next few weeks or a month, his dad especially realized there was something that happened with this fellow. There was something that changed in his life. I mean, his like all became new. His life was transformed by the renewing of his mind by Christ. And so his father said, well, maybe you can take your brother with you to go to church. So he did. He took his older brother with him. Well, what do you think happened there? That brother, he got saved too at that church. So here's these two boys going to church, and they're starting to make a transformation in their family. And so pretty soon, the mom and dad, because of all this, I mean, these young fellas are maybe 9 and 11 or 12 or something like that. They're not really, you know, juvenile delinquents or anything like that, I wouldn't have thought. But their lives had changed so dramatically by one little testament like this that they decided they wanted to go and visit that church too. So the whole family started going to church. Well, of course, you already know the answer to this question. What happened to the rest of them? Well, the mother came to know the Lord, and a little bit later than that, the father came to know the Lord right there at that church because of God's word had done such a transformation on the sons that they said they could see that there's something good going on. So that's the importance of just one of these testaments. And do you know what happened to that little boy that was 9 years old? Well, he went on with the Lord because he felt God's calling on his life. And now this young fella, he's a missionary. He's a missionary in the jungles of Ecuador. Just by one little testament. About $1.25. One little testament. Just think what that does. Here just recently, we had a privilege of going up to Beaumont Middle School up here on Beaumont 42nd.
Come on now.
And we were able to give out 180 testaments to those middle schoolers up there. Can you imagine the difference in the lives to be changed with 180 of those little testaments going out to those families? I mean, that can transform the whole Northeast Portland area. Yeah. You know, God can do anything He wants with faith. And when we place these Bibles, and when we give out these little testaments, we always give them out with faith that we know what God can do with His Word. God never sends His Word out. It always comes back and it accomplishes the purposes that He set out for it to do. So we know we can stand on God's Word. When we say that, we mean it. And as Gideons, we've been blessed to give out hundreds and hundreds. I mean, we're into the 2 billion now over since the Gideons have started. Way back in the last century, the Gideons started. So they've been going for a long time. But a lot of things have been going on the last few years. A lot more activity because it's so much easier to get the word out nowadays in America and we're over 200 some different countries that God has allowed His word to be distributed in. Now, the Gideons aren't the only ones that do that. We know there's lots of other wonderful organizations too, but we love to give out God's Word. And because of wonderful congregations like yourself, what a great group. I come here, I'll tell you what, I feel like I'm coming home almost. You know? I just live straight across here about 8 blocks, right on the same street here. You know? And it's wonderful, and it's just such a blessing to be here. And I mean, every time I see Pastor Grace, if she doesn't inspire a person, I'll tell you.
I know, huh?
I've been to a lot of different churches, and I'll tell you what, she is an inspiration to me because I can see what she really stands on the gospel of Christ. She stands on God's word, and she never wavers. You folks are blessed. You folks are blessed.
Yes, we are.
Amen. You get out God's word. Thank you,
Hallelujah.
Pastor Grace. And thank you, church family, for inviting us. We, as the Gideons, feel very blessed to have a church like this that supports, a neighborhood church that supports the Gideons. And we always get a warm welcome, and that's wonderful, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.